Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I too appreciate your prayer. And I would remind also that in the book of Luke, we're advised that if one is going to build a tower, when they take time to estimate the cost and make sure that they had enough money to complete it before they started it. And I have a couple of basic questions before I have my comments, because we just got this bill a little while ago. My question really is the total spending in the bill $94 billion? Is that correct? $94 billion is the total spending in the legislation?
Hold on, Austin. I'll get you the right answer. Hand me that, Ann, would you? Okay. I think you're right at about 90 billion.
Okay. So of the 94 billion, am I correct then in that it is the Democrats' intent to move forward a piece of legislation that identifies 66 of the 94 but leaves 28 unidentified? Or is there more than the 28 that's not identified in how it would be spent in this?
No, we have that 28 number you mentioned is in conservation, which we're going to deal with in a bit. Let me get that exact number from Ann.
So there's 28 that's not identified. Is there any more that's not identified in here? Is all, in other words, is all of the 66 billion identified and how it's going to be spent?
Pretty clear in the explanation of the bill how all of the other parts of this will be spent.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman,
right now.
So you're saying that in 50 pages we have, there's 66 billion spelled out, and then there's another 28 billion that will be coming at a later date that the committee's not going to get to see or take action on until after the legislation's passed out of committee. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Also, Austin, you got to understand we're in a process where we got both the Senate and the House moving ahead on these, and so we're not dealing in concrete just yet.
Okay, but respectfully, did I hear the Legislative Counsel say that the deficit, that this piece of legislation, the cap on the increased deficit spending is $89.1 billion? I believe that's correct. He said 89.1 billion of this was increased deficit spending. Is that correct?
So
that's correct, Mr. Scott. The budget resolution instructed the Agriculture Committee to increase the deficit by not more than 89.1 billion.
Okay, so of the 94 billion, 89.1 billion is deficit spending. And my question is, as we talk about China and their $7.75 billion investment, if 89.1 billion of the 94 billion that we all expect the Democrats are about to approve this legislation through the committee, 89.1 billion of the 94 billion is deficit. So 90+%, really close to 95% of what you're about to appropriate is debt spending. How much of that is going to be financed through the Bank of China? And so, at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have a motion to postpone until we can get some real answers on how the $89.1 billion deficit in the piece of legislation is actually going to be paid for, because it's just, and I've got friends on this call, it's just not honest to say that of the $89.1 billion deficit, that it's not going to lead to tax increases on farmers and small farms. I mean, we know the estate tax proposals from Bernie Sanders and the far left. We know the stepped up basis tax increases that are proposed by some of the Democrats, not saying Democrats on this committee, but you've got a $90 billion deficit hole if you pass this piece of legislation that you've got to fill, and we need to know how you intend to fill it before this thing becomes the law. And with that, I'll yield the remainder of my time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Now I will recognize for 5 minutes the gentle lady from Virginia, Ms. Spanberger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.